Andrew Huang. And today we're looking at the Bastl Kalimba. This is a ridiculous instrument. I'm a big fan of kalimbas. I have a little collection. Some of them have appeared in my videos before. I have this little kalimba necklace. I think kalimbas are cool. This is the most insane kalimba I've ever seen. It's a synthesizer kalimba, and despite being so small, there's more in here than some full-fledged synths I've seen. Bastl is sponsoring this video, but they have no say over the content. I just get to have fun. Let me give you the tour. So it can sound kalimba-ish, but then you've got all these different controls for sound parameters. It's cool to be able to control how long notes ring. And then these 5 are bipolar, so noon is kind of a default setting, but they sound different going clockwise versus counterclockwise from there. Adding a bit of a lower octave in that case. And here just getting brighter. Excite adds different kinds of transients. Blend goes between a physical modeling voice and an FM synth. Detune lets you shift some of the harmonics, and on the left it's completely free, while on the right it is set to harmonic ratios. And then body affects other aspects of the timbre. Going counterclockwise, it FMs the sound a bit, and going clockwise, it has more of a super saw effect. Demoing these parameters in isolation, though, doesn't really do it justice because depending how you combine them, there's a really versatile range of sounds. There's also an octave down and an octave up button, and there's a huge range on this kalimba. Now we also have this gold outlined shift button, and shift functions are labeled in gold. So each of these knobs serves a second purpose. The decay knob's shift function is just the volume, but the other ones are all effects. So we've got a filter that's low pass on the left and high pass on the right. We've got crunch, which is like a bit crush going left, and distortion going to the right. The mod effect is tape and lo-fi to the left, and chorus and flanger to the right. And then the next two work together. You can use space to determine if you want a reverb on the right or a delay on the left, and this also affects the send amount to those effects, and in the case of the delay, the feedback amount. And then the time parameter affects the time of those spatial effects, but it's a different character going left or right. Let's hear the reverb too. All right, let's talk about plucking. Let's talk about performing with it, because they've made this really interesting. It behaves like a real kalimba, even though these tines are not actually producing the sound. Well, actually, there is a microphone on the unit, and you can blend in that sound and get a little more kind of physical sound on it. And if you have the decay up, you can then tap on the unit and the microphone excites the physical modeling. But this is what the tines sound like with the device off. So most or all of what you hear while playing it is the synth, because of course that's how you can change octaves or even scales, like I'll show you in a bit. But I wanted to talk about how they made these tines weirdly responsive, like I can pluck and then mute. If I pluck lightly, I get light notes. If I pluck harder, I get louder, harder notes. It feels very responsive, even though I know that I am triggering a synth engine. And kalimbas are probably my favorite sound source for granular processing, but it's a whole new game when you can also alter the timbre of the kalimba as you play it. Now you also get a few touch points. So there's glide and wind down here, pad and soil over here, and then On the top, left and right are completely assignable to like almost any parameter. Got a little pitch bend there. But I could adjust the range of that pitch bend. I could instead have it apply to an effect parameter or a timbre parameter. Touch and glide while playing notes makes them glide. Wind and soil are interesting. They add kind of a texture to the sound. Wind being more kind of like pure, high noise air, and soil being kind of a lower, crunchier thing, but also both of them add this accelerometer response. So I'm affecting like a bit of the brightness, the panning by tilting the kalimba. And these aren't on and off controls either. They're very sensitive to how much you're touching them. And then the last touch point, pad, if you have this engaged, then it means you get a soft attack. It's actually based on the amount of contact you're making with a tine. So the volume grows the more of your skin is touching it. Before I demonstrate that though, let me show you the next cool thing they've added, which is lock. I can lock almost anything, meaning I don't have to actually be touching it for it to work. So like right now, let's lock the pad parameter. I'll touch pad and press lock. And then I don't need to be holding the pad touch point. I can just play all my tines as pads. I can lock any of these touch points, but even more fun than that is I can lock notes to the arpeggiator, because by the way, there's also an arpeggiator. So let's turn that on, and I can play notes. But I can also lock notes, and that's inclusive of the velocity that I had when I locked them. So like again, the amount of my skin touching a tine, determining that velocity. And then now as my arpeggio runs, I can play with the synth parameters, I can play with the touch points. Pad doesn't apply to the arpeggiator though, and then glide doesn't apply to the notes in your arpeggiator, but you can lock glide to new notes that you add. If I wanted that note to be always gliding in the arpeggio, I could lock it like that. And also you can still just play new notes as the arpeggiator's running. And then if you let go without locking those, it goes back to your locked arpeggio. Shift arp changes between arpeggio patterns. So right now we're going up, but we could go down, up, down. The next one is what order you added the notes in. And then the last one is random. If there's anything you want to unlock, you can touch it and double press lock. So I just removed that note. Or if you want to remove all the things that you've locked, you just press Shift, lock. It can even get into some percussive territory. Here's another huge thing we got to talk about. You can change scales. So if I hold scale, then my different tines each represent a scale and I can select one. It comes with scale presets, but you can customize them and you can even do microtonal stuff. Here's something amazing though. You can change your scale while the arp is running and then it changes the notes that are being triggered. So this is really fun to jam with. It can lead to a lot of interesting, unexpected chord voicings. Guess what? There's more. There is a built-in looper. If you want, you can record along to an internal metronome, which you turn up by holding tempo and adjusting the decay/volume knob. But you don't have to have it on to record. You can just press record, and it's gonna blink red, and it won't start recording until you pluck your first note. And then there is a rudimentary time stretcher, where if I hold tempo and plus, I can squeeze it, or tempo and minus here, and I can stretch it and get all these glitchy artifacts. You can also overdub, so I can put some new stuff on at this different recording speed. And then mess with the loop even more. So it's wild how much they've packed into this, and I haven't even mentioned a few things like you can save 4 banks of 4 presets, so that includes scales, it includes the sound parameter settings, there's a built-in speaker, it charges with USB-C and lasts a few hours. There's also sync and MIDI in and out, so if you want to use this as a normal synthesizer, you can connect a MIDI controller to it, or if you like the Kalimba style of playing, you can use this as a MIDI controller for another synth, including using some of the like gesture and touchpad stuff as CCs. So yeah, it's surprisingly powerful, but at the end of the day, what strikes me about it is that it's just really fun. It's so immediate, it's like instant flow state, and of course, you know, it's so portable. Take it with you anywhere as a little play buddy. Bastl Kalimba. I'm interested to know your thoughts. Leave a comment.